With us now, the Republican governor of Texas and former presidential candidate, Governor Rick Perry, and you were talking about a trip to the motherland, or what do you call it, the fatherland, Poland, for
working on a trip to Poland to talk about some import-export, eco-devo opportunities. And,
isn't it fascinating there? Isn't it vibrant and colorful and incredible?
I've had one of my senior staff people who have been there twice in the last 6 months, and there's just a lot going on in Poland. Yeah. Obviously, with the what's going on in the Crimea, our Polish friends are a little nervous and want to make sure that folks in the United States are paying attention to them, which we are, and I will say that in Texas. But on the Baltic, the opportunity to have LNG imported into that part of the world, I think can make a huge difference from the standpoint of leveraging Mr. Putin, from the standpoint of the energy side of it. So Texas got 3 plants that are going to be up and online here, hopefully, and some of the first ones in America to export liquefied natural gas. I think it's probably one of the most powerful diplomatic tools that we have in this country, LNG, and we need to be using it wisely to support our friends.
It's leverage.
I think it's fascinating he went to Poland, and you've been twice, but because Poland is the economy that's actually working. And it's wonderful to have watched the transformation over the past 20, 30 years. What's happened.
It really is.
It's a textbook.
Minister Sikorsky is a very, matter of fact, his wife's, I think her grandfather's from Texas, so we had a little bit of that Texas connection.
There you go.
To talk about.
There you go.
But a very bright, and speak about charming, a very, very charming gentleman. Who,
so we've talked before about the energy revolution that's been going on, and last time, I mean, it's amazing how quickly world events change. When we talked before, we were talking about what it meant for us domestically. And it is. It's just, we're going to have a manufacturing revolution.
As we go forward.
It can mean an awful lot, but just like you said, now suddenly there are geopolitical ramifications, and suddenly somebody said on the show last week that Russia's little more than a gas station. Well, if that's the case, we have an ability to offset Putin's power and to substantially over the long run.
When you look at the broader picture, which is Canada, United States, and Mexico, Mexico is going to be a major player in the energy industry over the course of the next decade. People, you talk about an emerging market. Mexico is going to be a major player. It's going to be very good for the North American region to have those 3 countries.
Put it in perspective. North America, talk about how big our footprint's going to be. We're going to be the #1 producer of oil by 2020. Add Mexico, add Canada. Put this in perspective for people who whine about the United States being in decline. Because it's just not the case.
The jobs that can be created across this country, across this region. And actually, when you think about what does this really mean, it may mean that a new Monroe Doctrine is time to be discussed for the Western Hemisphere. I mean, the power that can come, the leverage that this region can have when it is that sufficient in energy production, the economic wealth. Manufacturing is going to come back onshore because of the lowering of the energy cost. I mean, the fascinating opportunities are going to be happening in this country. I hope the president understands the power of what he has at hand here and will be a proponent of that, obviously opening up the XL pipeline, these federal lands, etc., that can be used to create a huge amount of really good jobs.
Ratner was talking about the other day, actually making it easier for us to export natural gas across the globe.
John Heilman.
That's absolutely critical. John Heilman.
Let's talk politics. Governor, I don't expect you to announce that you're running for president on this set any more than you were going to announce it on Jimmy Kimmel's set.
Good point.
But everybody thinks you're at least, but everybody thinks you're at least thinking about it.
Yeah, and everybody's right with that. And I don't shy away from saying I'm thinking about it. I've got some options. I want to keep all those options open.
So one of the things that is kind of taken as conventional wisdom is that candidates who've run and failed are better off the next time around. They learn lessons from the first time around. Boy, right? So what are the 3 things?
You just said a very powerful truth. You learn some lessons the first time around.
So tell us what the 3 things are. The 3 biggest things are you learned from your run.
Well, I highly recommend if you're going to run for the presidency of the United States, you do not have major back surgery 6 weeks before.
Oh my God!
Oh, the drugs
might have a negative impact on your performance.
Yeah, I've had that problem.
And preparation. I mean, what could be harder than running for governor of Texas, right? I mean, 4 times.
Right.
Right.
There is something hard. It's called running for the presidency of the United States.
You know,
I
remember, and I'm so glad you said that. I remember Cokie Roberts saying 20 years ago, and I brought this up with Cokie. She said it's always fascinating that you have people that have run huge states, that have run huge Senate races, and they think they've seen it all. They've seen nothing. And by the way,
it's great experience.
Cokie was saying this in the 1980s, but nobody, just like none of us know what it's like to be president of the United States until you're inside that bubble. None of us know, other than you, what it takes to run for president of the United States. And it's just incoming all the time.
And Joe, I want to share with you, you know, it was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever gone through in my life. I mean, this was a very humbling experience.
You know, we did our best to try to build you up here on the set of Morning Joe. But it was humbling, though.
Absolutely.
What I was fascinated...
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a... and again, America is a place that is about second chances. It is about a place that, you know, we don't mind knocking people off of their perch.
Right.
And then how do you perform after that? I mean, what's the...
Right.
So what
are you made of?
So fascinating.
Well, you got a dad from West Texas. I'm sure he taught you time and time again.
I used to get bucked off of those ponies all the time, and he'd say, "Son, get back on." I was tired of getting bucked off. He'd get back on.
You figure out how to not get bucked off the next time.
So you call it a humbling experience. We don't agree about anything, so I won't go into that. Although I do have an equal pay question for you coming up. Fair warning.
Sure.
But you say it's humbling. I want to know, what was the most gutting thing about it, if you could be deeply personal for a moment, because you seem to be very comfortable sharing, and it is an insight you have that nobody here at the table has. That experience of putting yourself out there on
Listen, standing up in front of 4 million people and performing the way that I did in one debate was a very humbling experience. I mean, it was. You know, I think we've all had lapses of memory before. Again, I will suggest to you what I'd been through physically, mentally, and in an ill preparation. Preparation for whatever it is in life is really important. And I did not prepare well enough to run for the presidency of the United States. Looking back on that, I admit that.
And how did you feel the next day, and how did you keep going? Because you did keep a jovial attitude, you fought, and look, put ideology aside, we all agreed that something happened during that debate that was terrible for you. And you're the one who says it. But how did you, the next day, face your staff, move forward? Where did you find it?
Well, life doesn't end. Like? I mean, life doesn't end at a moment of failure. It's you know, get up. And young men and women who leave everything on the field, whether it's an athletic field or, frankly, whether it's a field of battle, get up the next day and go do your job. Americans do it every day. There's single moms out there that do it. I mean, they get up, they go to work,
Governor,
they get knocked down.
Tell us about your new grandbaby. You and I don't agree on a lot politically. We found a couple of things we do, but we agree on new grandbabies.
Beautiful granddaughter. Beautiful young lady.
Ella is her name?
Ella. Yeah, that's my grandbaby. Ella Gray Perry. First grandbaby, only grandbaby. Most beautiful grandbaby in the world, with all due respect to you, sir.
Well, we agree to disagree on that.
Well, let's agree to disagree some other things, or perhaps you can come over to my side on this, Mr. Rick Perry. Equal pay. What's going on in your state, Governor?
No.
I can call you Rick, right?
You certainly can.
See, Joe?
See, I know
it's like Howard.
And I'll know that I'm home when I hear her call me Ricky.
Exactly.
Then I'm back in Paint Creek, Texas.
What the heck is going on? Your state, as it pertains to equal pay and the ongoing debate, feud, battle with Wendy Davis and...
I actually vetoed that bill last session of the legislature because why do we need to muddle up our statutes when we already have laws on the book that clearly takes care of this? I mean, the idea, I get the message. Listen, I am married to one of the most capable women in the world, a professional. I am the father-in-law to an incredibly bright litigator who is the mother of that beautiful grandbaby. I have a daughter who aspired to be a broadcast journalist. I mean,
she dodged that
she did. God bless her.
Thank God.
Now, she's a great kid and just a... But they have my support, as do all women across. My chief of staff is a woman. I mean, I probably got more female chiefs of staff than anybody in Texas history.
Right.
And the fact is, they get paid well because of the performance that they do. I support women when it comes to the first Asian American Secretary of State in Texas history is in Texas, Nandita Berry. I mean, I support and help lift up women in the state of Texas, as do I think our policies in the state. But for the sole purpose of politics, and let's face it, this was passed for no other reason than to say, we're going to make you veto this bill, or in Greg Abbott's situation saying, you know what, we've got statutes, this is a bright lawyer, if they want to talk about substantive issues in Texas in this governor's race, then let's talk about tax policy, regulatory policy, legal policies, but to go focus on this issue of a piece of legislation that we already have laws that protect it is nonsense.
You're not on drugs today. That's good. You sound great.
Unlike everybody else.
Hey, Governor Perry, you're the only one around this table not on drugs. And by the way, as I can say, as a guy that had back surgery, and I said this during the time.
I didn't need back surgery.
They tried dragging me on set.
You're wise, man.
2 months later. 2 months later, they got me on there. I'm trying to burn the tapes. It's
Governor Rick Perry.
Thank you for being here.
Ricky.
We love having you here, Ricky.
Right.
Governor, come back.
Thank you.